Some secrets hide because they are shameful, others because they are dangerous. But the most devastating secrets are the ones you don't even know you're keeping. For 20 years, Nicole Kidman lived her marriage believing she understood its framework. The vows, the promises, the compromises, the unspoken rhythms of two people learning to fold into each other. She believed her life with Keith Urban was imperfect, beautiful, unpredictable, but ultimately hers. Until the afternoon, she discovered a drawer she didn't remember ever opening. Not in this house, not in any house, not in any of the lives they had lived together. It was a quiet day, too quiet. Keith was away doing a magazine shoot. Nicole had planned to read a script, but couldn't concentrate. Her mind was still tangled in the fallout from the therapist's notes leak, from journalists speculating about the inner machinery of their marriage, from fans declaring themselves experts on their communication patterns. She needed something ordinary, something grounding. So she decided to clean. It was something she did rarely but deeply, as though restoring order to a room could restore order to her thoughts. She started in the office, a room both of them used and neither of them truly entered. She dusted shelves, sorted books, rearranged framed photographs that had been placed more for symmetry than memory. Then she noticed the desk, Keith's desk. Not the work desk in his studio, not the music desk, the personal desk, the one he kept locked. Except it wasn't locked today. A tiny brass key, never seen before, was still protruding from the keyhole. Nicole hesitated. A flutter of discomfort pressed under her ribs. She shouldn't open it, not because she feared what was inside, but because of the intimacy of it. Some doors stay closed not for secrecy, but for respect. But she also knew Keith, and she knew that Keith never left Keith in locks. Never. Something was off. Her hand moved before her mind finished deciding. She opened the drawer. Inside was a single leather folder. Cream-colored, unmarked, too pristine compared to the messiness of everything else Keith touched in his daily life. Nicole frowned. She lifted the folder out. It was heavier than it looked. She opened it, and her world shifted. The first page was a legal document. Her name at the top, his name below it. Date, nearly 2 decades ago. Title, Interpersonal Stability Agreement, Addendum to Marriage License. Nicole stared. Her heartbeat faltered. She flipped the page. Paragraphs, clauses, handwritten signatures. Her signature, his, a notary stamp. Her breath caught. She didn't remember this. Not faintly, not vaguely, not even as a dream. Nothing. She read the first section. In the event of emotional instability, psychological distress, or significant dysregulation affecting one spouse, the other spouse is granted temporary decisional authority over joint life matters. Temporary decisional authority. Her stomach twisted. She read further. These measures include, but are not limited to, financial decisions, scheduling decisions, travel limitations, and emotional environment restructuring to ensure the protection of marital integrity. Her breath turned shallow. Travel limitations, emotional environment restructuring? She felt physically ill. The next clause was worse. The above agreement may be enacted solely at the discretion of the stable party with no requirement of medical validation. No requirement? No oversight? Just unilateral control. If one of them was deemed unstable by the other, She felt dizzy. Then she reached the signature line. Her signature. Neat, slanted, perfect. Her hand, her name, her ink, but she had no memory of writing it. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the sheet closer. The date burned into her vision. It was the year after Keith's early relapse scare, the year she worked non-stop, the year she slept in trailers and hotel rooms and studio apartments, the year she cried into pillows so her daughters wouldn't see, the year she barely remembers herself. A soft sound slipped from her throat, a whimper, not fear, recognition. Something about that year was missing, something she had refused to look at, something Keith had never mentioned. The contract was only 4 pages long, but every sentence hurt. Clause 7 stopped her cold. The spouse deemed temporarily unstable agrees to abide by boundaries set forth by the stable spouse until the episode has passed. What boundaries? She turned the page. List included reduced travel, restricted media appearances, mandatory rest periods, relocation for emotional healing if necessary, temporary relinquishing of certain parental duties, avoidance of triggering environments, agreement to allow stable spouse to intervene when emotional judgment is impaired. Her hands began to shake so badly the paper crinkled, and then the final clause. She felt it like a blow. This agreement is made to preserve love, stability, and longevity of the marriage. It will remain confidential and undisclosed to any third party unless mutually dissolved in writing. Confidential, undisclosed, mutually dissolved. But she hadn't dissolved anything. She hadn't even remembered signing it. Her heart pounded. Her vision blurred. The room spun. She sat down on the floor before she collapsed. What had she agreed to? What had he asked her to agree to? What version of her had believed it was necessary? She forced herself to breathe. In, out. In, out. Then she saw it, a handwritten note tucked into the back of the folder. Not typed, not notarized. A note in Keith's handwriting. Her pulse accelerated. She unfolded it, a single sentence, one that should have soothed her. Instead, it terrified her. I'm doing this because I love you more than you know how to love yourself right now. Nicole's skin crawled. She read it again and again. Each time, the meaning darkened. What state had she been in? What had happened between them? Why would she sign away her autonomy, her travel, her decisions, her independence, without remembering it? She felt at once violated and complicit, present and absent, loved and controlled. She didn't know what scared her more. The idea that Keith had taken advantage of her during a vulnerable moment, or the possibility that he hadn't, that she had willingly given him this power and forgotten, or suppressed it so deeply that it became a missing room in her memory. The front door opened. Nicole froze. Nick? Keith's voice echoed down the hall. You home? Her throat tightened. She couldn't move. Babe? He called again. Where are you? He stepped into the office, and then he saw her, on the floor, holding the contract. His face drained of color. Nick, he whispered. She looked up, eyes full of something he hadn't seen in years, fear. What is this? She asked, her voice trembling. What did we sign? He closed his eyes, calmly, devastated, like a man who had been waiting for this day for 20 years. Nick, he said softly, please, put it down. No. Nick, no. Her voice cracked. She lifted the document, her hands shaking violently.
"What is this?" she repeated. "Tell me." Keith exhaled, slow, painful, and then he said the words that shattered everything. "It's the agreement we made, the year you tried to leave me." For a moment, Nicole thought she'd misheard him. Tried to leave? Her? She stared at him, stunned. "I never tried to leave you." Keith's eyes darkened with something she couldn't place. Not anger. Not yet. Something closer to grief. "You don't remember," he said quietly. She felt the floor drop away beneath her. "Remember what?" she whispered. He walked slowly into the room, as though approaching a wounded animal. "Nick," he said softly, "put the papers down, please. You're shaking." "I'm shaking because my husband just told me I tried to leave him and apparently signed away my autonomy in the same year without remembering either thing." "Sit," he said gently. "Explain," she replied. They stared at each other for a long, electric moment. Then he sank down onto the opposite side of the rug, so they were both on the floor, the document like a fault line between them. "That year," he said, "was bad." She swallowed. "Define bad." "Worse than you let yourself remember," he replied. She flinched. "Don't psychoanalyze me," he said. "I'm not."
I'm reminding you of a reality you've locked in a room somewhere in your head. "Then open the door," she snapped, "because all I see on this paper is that I gave you the right to decide when I'm too unstable to think for myself." His eyes flicked to the contract and back to her. "You didn't give it to me," he said. "We gave it to each other." She blinked. "What?" "Look again," he said quietly. "You're only reading the parts that mention you." Her stomach tightened. Slowly, reluctantly, she flipped back to the first page and forced herself to read the headings she'd skimmed. The language was careful, clinical, impersonal. In cases of emotional destabilization of either spouse. The stable spouse, hereafter referred to as guardian party, applies equally to both signatories. Her heart skipped. "Both?" she murmured. He nodded. "Both," he repeated. She read a later clause. "Should either spouse experience relapse, psychological collapse, or significant dissociative episode, the other party is authorized to temporarily assume primary decision-making power regarding joint obligations." She swallowed. You thought it was written about you," he said quietly, "because you saw yourself in the word unstable." She hesitated. "Wasn't it?" she asked. He huffed a humorless laugh. "Nick," he said, "do you remember where I was emotionally when we signed that?" Bits and shards of memory flickered at the edge of her mind. Hotel rooms, exhaustion, arguments that didn't feel like arguments, just static. Him restless, her cold, his eyes sometimes too bright, sometimes too empty. She closed her eyes. "I admit you had a scare." He nodded. "I'd had more than a scare. I'd had a brush with the version of myself I promised you I would never be again." Her throat tightened. "That wasn't your fault," she whispered. He shrugged slightly. "Fault isn't the point," he said. "You were terrified. I was ashamed. We were both trying to hold something that was already slipping." He pointed gently at the contract. "This was our solution," he said, "ugly as it looks on paper." She studied his face. He didn't look like a man proud of what they'd done. He looked like a man who'd been carrying a secret for so long his arms had forgotten how to lower it. "Why don't I remember signing it?" she asked. "Because you were barely sleeping. You were doing back-to-back shoots, you were flying every other week, you were having panic attacks at night and calling them bad dreams. That doesn't mean I'd sign something like this without understanding it," she shot back. His gaze softened. "You didn't,"
he said. You understood it. You were part of creating it. She headed no. Yes. Then remind me, she said, because right now it feels like you tricked me. He flinched.
He deserved that. Okay, he said quietly. You want the whole night? I'll give it to you. It had been raining that night. Not the gentle kind, the kind that made Los Angeles feel like somewhere else, somewhere heavier. Nicole remembered the rain, the way it hammered the windows while she sat at the kitchen table, hair still damp from a shower she barely recalled taking. Keith sat across from her, sober, but frayed, like a man one step away from shattering. There had been yelling earlier, not the wild kind, the exhausted kind. I can't keep doing this, she'd said, voice hoarse. Doing what? He'd demanded. This, she'd waved her hand, encompassing everything and nothing, waiting to see which version of you was coming home. He'd looked like she'd stabbed him. That's not fair. Neither is waking up every morning wondering if the man I married is about to vanish into the one I watched in rehab. You said you forgave me, he'd whispered. I did, she'd said. But forgiveness isn't a time machine. He'd stared at the table for a long moment. Then, what do you want, Nick? She took a breath that hurt all the way down. I want to know, she said slowly, that if either of us falls apart again, the other one is allowed to protect the marriage, not just watch it burn. He'd frowned. What does that mean? It means, she'd said, voice shaking, I don't trust both of us to make good decisions when we're in that state. Not you, not me. If I spiral, I'll cling to work and let everything else die. If you spiral... He'd looked away. Say it, he'd muttered. You'll run, she'd whispered. Into noise, into numbness, into oblivion. I'm trying not to, he'd said. I know, she'd replied. But trying isn't always enough. We need something stronger than intent. He'd stared at her then with something like dread. What are you saying? He'd asked. I'm saying we need a plan for when we're not ourselves. He laughed, bitter and desperate. A crisis manual for our mental breakdowns? Yes, she'd said. Exactly. He'd shaken his head. That's not how love works. That's how survival works, she'd countered. The argument had spiraled from there. Back then, it never stayed tidy. At one point, he'd said, You want to control me. At another, she'd said, You want the right to implode and drag me with you. They'd both cried. They'd both withdrawn. They'd both come closer again. Eventually, Keith had grabbed a pen and a notebook. Fine, he snapped. Let's write it down. A stupid, rigid, unromantic rule book for how to be married to each other when we're insane. Don't mock it, she'd said weakly. It might save us. I don't want saving, he'd muttered. I want freedom. She looked at him then with eyes that were tired down to the bone.
Freedom is what almost killed you, she'd said, and it's what will eventually kill us if we don't put some rails around it. He'd gone quiet. They'd written for hours, writing through tears, through fear, through rage. They'd written sentences like, If I forget who I am, you're allowed to remind me, even if I hate you for it in the moment. If I threaten to burn everything down, you're allowed to lock the doors. If I try to leave because I'm scared of hurting you, you're allowed to call it what it is, running. It hadn't started as a contract. It had started as a list, a desperate, scribbled list of if I and then you. They hadn't meant for it to become legal. That had been the lawyers, their managers, the people who looked at human chaos and saw liability. The next week, someone had said, if you two want protection in place, we should formalize it. Nicole had been exhausted. Keith had been ashamed. Someone had used the phrases, for both of your sakes, and to safeguard the children, and just a precaution. They'd both signed. At least, that's how Keith remembered it. He finished talking. The office was quiet. Nicole's eyes glistened as she tried to reconcile his memories with her missing ones. I remember the rain, she said faintly. He nodded. You cried. A lot. She replied. Not like that, he said. You were shaking. You said you weren't sure if staying was love or addiction to fixing broken things. You said you were scared of yourself. Her lips parted. I said that? Yes. And you? I said I was scared you'd leave, and even more scared you wouldn't. That you'd stay out of some twisted sense of responsibility and quietly die inside. She stared at the contract again. At what point, she whispered, did protecting each other turn into appointing ourselves each other's guardians? He looked down. We were both so afraid, he said. We didn't notice how it read from the outside. From the outside, it reads like a power of attorney for my emotions. He winced. That's not what it is. Isn't it? She asked. This phrase, decisional authority. Who suggested that? He hesitated. Your lawyer, he said. She laughed softly, bitterly. Of course, she said. I hired someone to protect me and ended up protected from myself. You weren't the only one, he reminded her. This applies to me too. Has it? She asked. He froze. What? She looked up. Eyes suddenly sharp. Has it? She repeated. Have I ever invoked this contract to stop you from making decisions? He shifted. Not formally. Formally, she echoed. So informally, yes. He sighed. You've pulled me back from some pretty bad choices, Nick. You've called my team. You've canceled appearances I wanted to do.
You've told me I wasn't in a state to go on stage or fly or make promises. You've done it kindly, softly, but you did it. I did that as your wife, she said, not as your legal handler. What's the difference? He asked. She stared at him. The difference, she said carefully, is that one version assumes we're partners. The other assumes one of us is lesser. He flinched again. Is that what you think this means? He asked. That I think you're lesser? She didn't answer right away. I think, she said slowly, that some part of you is more comfortable when I'm not fully free. That's not fair, he whispered. Neither is this, she said, lifting the pages. He exhaled, hard. Okay, he said, then let's tear it up. She blinked. What? Let's tear it up, he repeated. Right now,
You and me, no lawyers, no formalities. We'll shred it, burn it, whatever you want. It's paper. It doesn't own us." She looked at him like she was seeing a stranger. "Do you want to?" she asked. He paused. Just a fraction of a second, but she saw it. "Keith," she said softly, "do you want to keep it?" His eyes flicked to the contract, then to her, then back again. "I want you safe." "That's not what I asked." He shut his eyes. "Part of me," he began, stopped, corrected himself. "A big part of me likes knowing there's something in place if either of us spins out." "And another part?" she asked. "Another part is horrified this ever existed," he whispered. "And the part that hesitated," she pressed. He opened his eyes, met her gaze. "That part is terrified of what happens if I'm ever that scared again and we have nothing to lean on but us." She felt that like a slap and a confession all at once. "Say it clearly," she said. "I don't fully trust us," he said. The words rang in the air, ugly, necessary, real. They decided, for the moment, not to tear it up, not because they wanted to keep it, but because they didn't know what it meant yet, what it had already done, what it had already justified. "Has this been used against me?" Nicole asked quietly. Keith hesitated. Her stomach dropped. "How many times?" she whispered. "Not like that," he said quickly. "Not in some sinister, controlling way." "Then how?" she demanded. He rubbed his temples. "You remember when you dropped out of that film 3 years ago?" She frowned. "Yes, I was exhausted. My body was—" "You were dissociating," he said gently. "You couldn't remember lines. You were forgetting entire scenes. You were waking up not knowing what city you were in." She swallowed. "That wasn't dissociation. That was fatigue." "Maybe," he said. "Maybe both. But when you called me and said you wanted to power through because professionalism matters, I used this." "How?" she whispered. "I called your team," he said. "Told them we were invoking a private agreement."
Said you were not to be booked for anything for 3 months, that your schedule belonged to me until you could feel your own feet on the ground again. Her face went pale. "You did what?" "You slept," he said, "for the first time in years. But my career, it survived," he cut in. "You know what wouldn't have? You." She recoiled. "You don't know that." "Yes," he said simply, "I do." "And you think," she whispered, "that justifies having a legal mechanism to shut my life down?" "I think," he replied softly, "that without something stronger than your guilt and my fear, neither of us would have let go." She looked at him like he was a stranger who knew too much. "Did you tell me?" she asked. "What?" "Did you tell me you invoked this agreement?" she clarified. He hesitated. Memories flickered for him now too. Her shaking voice on the phone, her insistence on pushing through, his terror as he watched from a distance. The folder. "I told you you needed rest. That's not what I asked." He met her eyes. "No," he whispered. "I didn't say the words. Not then." She felt something inside her twist. "So you did," she said faintly. "You made decisions for me, without me." "I made decisions for us," he said. "In whose voice?" she asked. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. She already knew. in his. The scandal, when it finally hit the headlines, was worse than the therapist's notes. This time, it wasn't an anonymous leak. It wasn't speculation on a podcast. It was a document, a legal document, a copy of the Interpersonal Stability Agreement obtained by an online outlet that specialized in celebrity contracts and hidden deals. The article didn't print the whole thing, but it printed enough. Clauses, phrases, the words guardian party, the phrase temporary decisional authority, and of course, the sentence the journalist couldn't resist quoting in bold: "The stable spouse reserves the right to limit the unstable spouse's travel, work, and external engagements when deemed necessary for the preservation of marital and familial integrity." The headline was brutal. Inside Nicole and Keith's secret guardianship contract, love or control. Subheads were worse. Did Keith Urban have legal power over Nicole Kidman's life decisions? Sources say the contract dates back 20 years. Experts debate emotional safety net or coercive control. Photo stills of them smiling at events filled the screen. Old interviews were recirculated, clips where Nicole talked about feeling protected, clips where Keith talked about feeling safe in her hands, clips where they both used the word stability. Suddenly, every word was reinterpreted. Protected became controlled, stable became managed, supported became handled. Comment sections turned vicious.
She signed it. She's an adult. End of story. This is literally a guardianship, just not a name. Hollywood loves women who sacrifice freedom for the illusion of safety. He's manipulative. She's complicit. They're both insane. Honestly, this is kind of romantic. Two people vowing to save each other from themselves. No, this is abusive. Period. Nicole read none of it. She'd learned long ago that the world would always have opinions about her choices. This time, the only opinion that mattered was the one sitting across from her on their bed, hers. Because for the first time in her life, she genuinely didn't know what she thought. Was she a victim? A participant? A woman who had been quietly controlled? Or a woman who had signed away some of her freedom because she didn't trust herself with all of it? And if both were true, what did that make her? Keith, for his part, felt like he was living out the worst version of a song he never wanted to write. He'd always known he had controlling impulses. They came with the addiction, with the fear, with the desperate need to manage chaos by managing people. He'd spent years trying to soften them, to question them, to hand them to therapists and friends and God. Now the world had a piece of paper that said he hadn't entirely succeeded. One night, after the story broke, he found Nicole sitting in the dark of their living room, the contract on the coffee table between two untouched glasses of wine. She didn't look up as he entered. "Do you know what I hate the most?" she asked quietly. He sat down slowly. "What?" "I don't know which is worst. That I signed this agreeing to let someone else decide when I'm not fit to choose my own life, or that there was a time I was relieved to have someone do it." He exhaled. "That doesn't make you weak," he said. "Doesn't it?" she replied. "It makes you human," he said. "We were drowning." "Were? Past tense?" He considered. "Sometimes I think we still are," he admitted. "We're just better at staying near the surface." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do you think you abused this?" she asked. His heart stopped. "What?" "The contract," she said, voice steady. "Do you think you used it in ways you shouldn't have?" He looked down at his hands. "I think," he said slowly, "that there were moments when I felt more comfortable making decisions for you
than helping you make them yourself. She nodded once. I know, she said. You do? I felt it, she said simply. In small ways, a pulled plug here, a canceled event there, a quiet word to my team that I was overextended when I'd never said that. He swallowed. And you didn't call me on it. I told myself you were right, that you saw a kind of exhaustion I had normalized. I did.
But I also told myself something darker, she continued. That this was the price of loving someone who had once almost lost his life. That my independence was negotiable if it meant you staying alive. His breath shook. I never asked for that. No, she said. You did something worse. You let me give it. He looked at her sharply. That's not fair. It's honest, she replied. They sat in that for a while. Then Keith said, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer me as brutally as you have been all night. She nodded. All right. He took a breath. If you could go back, he asked, to that rainy night when we made this, would you still sign it? She didn't hesitate. For the first time all week, she didn't hesitate. No, she said. It hit him like a punch. She saw it. And that's the problem, she added softly. Because I think the woman I was then would say yes again. He frowned. Explain. The me I remember, the one who thought love meant carrying the heavier end of the load, who believed suffering was proof of devotion, who felt guilty any time she said no, that woman would have signed anything that sounded like, this will keep him safe. His throat burned. And the woman you are now? She looked up, eyes clear, steady, aching. The woman I am now, she said, knows that no love can be safe if it's built on one person being allowed to decide when the other is too broken to speak. He nodded slowly. And where does that leave us? He asked. She picked up the contract, held it between her fingers. Here, she said, with a choice. He waited. She didn't make it yet, not out loud. Instead, she said, I think we need a mediator. He blinked. A therapist? He asked. No, she said. Not this time. Not someone who writes notes. Who then? She took a deep breath. A lawyer, she said. Our lawyer. Not yours, not mine, ours. And we need to sit in a room with them and talk about what this means, what it's done, and what it will never do again. With witnesses, with clarity, with the same seriousness we had when we signed it. His chest tightened. Are you divorcing me? He whispered. She shook her head. No, she said. I'm renegotiating the terms under which I stay. The distinction landed like a verdict and a mercy in one. He nodded. Okay, he whispered. Okay. And until then, you don't invoke this. Not in your head, not in your calls, not in your panic. He swallowed. I won't, he said. Promise me, she insisted. I promise, he said. She searched his face. Say it clearly. He held her gaze. I will never again use this contract to make a decision for you that you don't understand and agree to. Not ever. She exhaled. Good, she said.
Because if you do, it won't be a contract we're talking about anymore. It'll be the end. Outside, the world screamed about control and guardianship and power. Inside, 2 people sat in a quiet house with 4 pieces of paper between them, and realized that sometimes the most dangerous thing in a marriage isn't the fights, the distance, or the doubt. It's the agreements you sign when you're trying not to fall apart. The ones that feel like safety in the moment and look like cages in the light.